I'm here with Al Moss, one of the legends of Americana music. And you can tell by his expression, he's humble about it. But, you know, we're down in Nashville.
American trash. American trash.
To him, earlier, Americana's not about having hits. It's about building careers. So it doesn't matter if you can draw...
A career to nowhere?
If you can draw... No, it's not about a career to nowhere. Would you say Delbert McClinton is a career to nowhere? Would you say John Prine, John Hyatt, careers to nowhere? No, they're very successful careers, and they can sustain those careers for 20 or 30 years or more. It's not about selling 5,000 or 10,000 tickets. It's about, you know, if you can sell out 2,000, 3,000, up to 5,000 consistently, several times a week, over years, you're in a much better position than somebody that had a couple of hits 20 years ago and then is forgotten about.
Hey,
Not to mention you're a lot more interesting.
You don't have to sell me. To me, a success is what you think of your own success. My success is not judged on what you think
Good
is success.
point. Excellent point.
What did I want to achieve out of this?
Absolutely, excellent point.
Yeah.
And most of these artists are driven by their music. They're not driven by celebrity and all of that. Sure, maybe they want that or like that when they get it, but that's not what drives them. It's their music that drives them.
Yeah, but what they can't figure out is, how come I can't make money and I am successful? I do have an album deal. I have this output of stuff. I know I can get 200 people to my show. Why can't I get more?
Sturgill Simpson didn't have an album deal.
That's gonna fall fucking on his face. I love Sturge. I've had him in and all that.
What's gonna fall? Because of Atlantic?
Yeah.
Because of signing with Atlantic? Yeah, but you know what? He's walking away with plenty of money in his pocket.
And that's what I just said before.
No, wait, before Atlantic, just from the success of the sales of the record, which he owned the record.
Right.
So he sold, what, like 60,000 records, and he owned the record. So do the math on that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's better than an artist with a label that sells, that sells a million.
Yeah. With an average of $5 coming back to him direct, that's $300K.
Probably more than that.
At least $300K in his pocket. Yeah.
More, believe me, he's made well more than that, I'm sure. Plus you've got the publishing royalties, plus you've got the merch, plus you've got the touring and that's what it's all about, is touring. That's another key thing. Touring is the key to everything, more so than radio, more so than press. I mean, it all works together. We're in a niche world, and the idea is to fill as many. We're in a niche world, and the idea is to fill as many niches as you can and hope it amounts to something. But if there's one driving factor, it's the touring. Radio helps that, press helps that, they all help each other, but the one driving factor is the touring.
You're old school enough to remember, and tell me if this is not true. It used to be you would go tour to support your album. Now you need an album to sell while you're on tour. Is that not true?
That's a very good point.
Right?
Very good point.
Right? I mean, what, you started with Warner Brothers back in the day, back in the 70s. That was what it was all about, right? Right?
Yeah, going on tour. Well, absolutely.
Right? Manassas, yeah, we got the new Stephen Stills project, man. We got to get him out on the road and all that, you know, and all that, and so we can sell this album.
But is there really a touring circuit? I mean, it's not that easy to go out there on the road these days. No.
Hi, my name is Derek Hoke, coming to you from outside the 5 Spot in East Nashville, Tennessee. You want me to do that again, or?
Oh, sure. Why not? So that sounds good, though.
You want me to say all that shit, though?
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
American trash. American trash.
Have you got a TV the size of a flag?
So this Americana genre, there's so many talented musicians, and the question is, why is it geographically located in like Austin and Nashville in this digital age?
Well, I think it's located everywhere. It's just what you want to, if you want to call yourself Americana, or someone else is going to call you Americana. if you're in some little town in Wisconsin and you have a banjo in your group, you're going to be called if you come down here, they'll call you an Americana band. Up there, they might call you the weird band in town. But I don't know, there's a place for everybody, I think, in that umbrella of Americana-ness, if you will. So I don't know if it's geographical or not, but I mean, I see bands from Sweden and their favorite person is Steve Earle, and so there's people all over the world that are getting into this whole thing, whether you call it Americana or country. It's everywhere, I think. There's places like the City Winery in New York and Chicago. There's one in Nashville now that is almost like the place to go see Americana music on a nightly basis. And they have other things as well, but I think a lot more people are embracing this almost sub-genre of, like, if you are not into what's going on country radio, there's this whole other world of music that you'll probably love if you knew where to find it and how to get a hold of it and how to look these artists up on the internet, and then you might buy their record at their shows, and so I think it's endless and exciting.
Americana artists?
Well, my answer to that, I like Willie Nelson a lot. I don't know I think he's now probably called Americana, and Loretta Lynn's Americana now more than country. Nobody likes to use that word, or classic country. But I've always been affiliated, or musically, I like those like old people, older style of music, and then people that can do it in a new way, like Shovels and Rope and people like that can kind of turn. They look like they're going to sound like one thing, and then they turn it on its head and sound like something you've never heard before. And the Carolina Chocolate Drops and bands like that are just kind of doing new things with old instruments and new sounds with vintage gear. That's the kind of stuff I find inspiring and exciting about this thing we're calling Americana.
Americana is basically based on American roots music. It's music that generally doesn't fit most mainstream radio formats, and it started as a country rooted format, but over the years it's sort of evolved to encompass a broader range of roots music. So there's now more blues and R&B roots instead of just strictly country roots, which is what it more or less was to begin with.
Why is it in Nashville and Austin and not all over?
I think it is all over. I think that you just have the biggest, creative people tend to flock together where other creative people are. And I think one reason it evolved out of Nashville is because there were so many other creative people here, even musicians here that maybe were originally part of the country music hierarchy or that came here because of country music, but were the writers, the musicians, etc., as opposed to the stars. And I think a lot of times when they were doing their own stuff, it tended to be more authentic and more less manufactured than the mainstream country stuff. And so, you just got a lot of creative people that came together here. And, similarly in Austin, even though they didn't have the business infrastructure that Nashville did, but there's great Americana musicians everywhere. If you look at Nashville, it's actually not just Americana, not just country. You've just got great musicians of all genres here, from Christian to rock to jazz, whatever it is. And I think it's just because creative people tend to gravitate towards other creative people. Not unlike the 70s in Southern California, for example. Casey Chambers in Australia. There's certainly plenty of, Asheville, North Carolina has a big scene of musicians. I know a number of them in Atlanta and, other cities in Texas. Knoxville's got a lot. Just really everywhere. Again, the highest concentration of musicians, not just Americana, the highest concentration of musicians probably anywhere is in Nashville and Austin. So naturally, where you've got the highest concentration of musicians, you're likely to have the highest concentration of any particular type of musicians or genre of musicians. So that would sort of explain why there's, you know, so many Americana ones here. Jason Isbell just had a huge breakthrough this year that was largely fueled by Americana. Sturgill Simpson broke through big. Shovels and Rope broke through. They're from Charleston, South Carolina, speaking of our geographic thing before. Old Crow Medicine Show has, you know, broken through big. By the same token, the Avett Brothers, again, not from here. They're from North Carolina. Rodney Crowell is here. Nikki Lane, she made a pretty good breakthrough this year. I mean, none of those are quite to the level. Avetts and Old Crow are probably maybe the biggest selling ones ticket-wise. Old Crow probably particularly, and Avetts of the Americana ones. But it's kind of like it's a niche world. So whereas you talk about the big breakthrough artists, a lot of times that's because of quote-unquote hits. And I don't see Americana as a hit genre or a hit format as much as a career-building one. So it's not really about having a hit, it's about building and sustaining a career. You've got plenty of artists over the years in all formats that have had a big hit, and 10, 20, 30 years later, they're done, they're not doing anything. Maybe they're on the oldies circuit, maybe they're just not playing at all. Whereas you look at a lot of the Americana artists, 10, 20, 30 years later, they've got just incredible careers without really having had much of what we would consider a quote-unquote hit, whether it's a John Prine, a John Hyatt, a Delbert McClinton. You know, you've got the other artists like the Emmyloos and the Rodneys and the Roseanne Cashes, etc., that have built their careers over the years. But yeah, maybe they've had a hit or two here or there in the midst of it. But you know, it's like a lot of the others. Chris Knight's a good example. He's been around maybe 15 years. He has a very successful career, but not based on hits, more based on authentic music, touring and building that fan base and sustaining that fan base over the years. As long as the integrity stays in the music, as long as the authenticity stays in the music, then it almost doesn't matter how big it gets. The idea is, yes, that it will get bigger, that more people will know about it, that you'll have more artists playing to more people, more artists that are able to make a good career financially of it as they grow. But it's not likely to, as long as you maintain that authenticity and that integrity, I don't think you're likely to get huge groups. So many of the huge ones, now certainly Springsteen has maintained his integrity and his authenticity, for example, Tom Petty has, etc. But I think a lot of the bigger groups survive on manufactured hits, and it's just a whole different world. It's really, again, it's about a career, it's not about a hit. It's about looking 20 years down the road and you've got something really special and significant that's developed. Is it on the level of a big mainstream artist? Maybe not. But again, the ones I mentioned, Old Crow, Shovels and Rope, Avett Brothers, Sturgill Simpson, Jason Isbell, they're all well on their way to developing really significant careers. Another artist that I'm particularly excited about personally lately is Kacey Musgraves. She's a brilliant artist in my opinion. In fact, her debut album to me is literally one for the ages. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite albums of the last decade. And even though she sort of crosses over with the mainstream country world, she's not really fully accepted by mainstream country radio, which is really to the benefit of Americana, because you know she's authentic and she maintains her musical integrity. She doesn't sell out to the manufactured masses. stadium artists, etc., are as big as they are is because they've had exposure at the mainstream media, TV, lots of mainstream radio stations, etc. I think there's a lot of the Americana artists that would achieve approaching those levels of success if they were given the exposure in the mainstream media. I think people would like them. So that's why a lot of those artists are big. The key is when you get that kind of exposure, not to lose your integrity and your authenticity. And quite frankly, sometimes it's hard to do when you get to that level.
The rap influence in country music, is there a rap influence in Americana music? Will there be?
God, I hope not.
You ready?
Yes.
Hey, this is Mike Ferris from Nashville, Tennessee. Don't you forget it. My record is called Shine for All the People. Not just some of the people. Not just these people over here. Or this little group over here. But all the people. And that's all I got to say.
So, Mike, congratulations on winning a Grammy. For
Thank
God's
you.
sakes, man. Has that been a dream, or is that just something that you were surprised about?
It's like when I won it, I had no speech. I had nothing, ready. For whatever reason.
Here's your chance. Speechify.
Yeah.
You want to thank Kanye, of course.
Oh, you know what, man? Kanye, I hate to talk bad about people, man, but
Oh, he'll see this.
yeah. But, dude, album of the year is for a whole piece of work. It's an album, and for him to stand up there and criticize for whatever reason, man, had he even heard Beck's record? You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I think he's just talking out of his butt like he always does. So, But for us to win it, man, it's an unbelievable honor, And but the thing about that is that it wasn't so much I didn't get excited about it. Still, I'm still, pretty unaffected by it. I mean, I get moments where I'm pretty, I'm like, I fucking won a Grammy, man. But other than that, man, it's like, honest to God, man, I'm really representing all the people who believed in me, and when I didn't believe in me all these years, and people who followed me and supported me all these years, man. Everybody's so excited, and the outpouring has been so amazing, and it's really all for the people, man. It's all for those guys. So I'm really happy for everybody else.
Why do you think Americana music is geographically located in Austin and Nashville? Digital age, computers, everything.
Well, Nashville is just, it's been high standards when it comes to music for a long time, and now it's kind of diversified, and it's really kind of starting to live up to its name as, Music City, and which I'm really proud of my hometown for that, As far as Austin being thrown in there, how are you throwing Austin in the mix?
Well, it seems that people move to Nashville and Austin to play Americana music. That they're the cities that people.
Well, what do you call Americana, though?
Well, that's a good question. What do you call Americana?
We're talking broad strokes, man. And but
How do you see you fitting under that Americana umbrella?
Well, that's a good question, because when I came to Nashville and I did Salvation and Lights and I met with Jed Healy, Jed wanted to expand the definition of Americana, and at the time, Americana really was more Texas-based singer-songwriters. Is really kind of what it started as. Yeah. The Guy Clarks and the Townes Van Zants and everything that grew from that lineage.
Junior Brown and
Yeah.
Kelly.
Right.
And then all the ladies.
And Steve Earle and Emmy and all that stuff. And it kind of really kind of grew out of that, you know. And so when Jed came to us, I mean, I think his intention was to really broaden that definition, and so it, you know, and you know, fast forward to today, we were kind of there when it began to blossom, you know, and so now it's like, you know, it encompasses a lot of stuff, and as it should. So, you know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. What do you think is the future of Americana?
I have no idea. You're asking the wrong guy there, because I mean, I'm living a kind of insular world. You know, I really don't know a lot of what's really going on in Americana, to be honest with you. Because, you know, I'm kind of in my own little world, you know what I mean? Doing my own thing. And so I don't know. You know, you're really asking the wrong guy, I guess.
Well, it's been less than a week, but have you noticed the boost in your sales because of the Grammy?
You know, that's another thing I know. It's not going to change anything, you know. I mean, it's going to, a boost in sales, you know, it'll help pay bills and, you know, put gas in the tank, stuff like that. But I mean,
well, no, because I know that your previous record, the EP, was more of a charity record.
Yeah.
You know, so we already know that you paid it forward, not only music-wise, but lifestyle-wise. Because
right.
I know you, so I mean, you know.
Right.
But where they're leading to is how come nobody really makes any money? How are you making money in Americana other than live shows? Are you selling enough product?
Right. Well, for us, man, you know, it's you know, to back up our on our social sites, we had within a day we had over 100,000 people visit our page, you know. So, you know, that will surely turn into more people who want to come see us play. And it's not so much, as everybody knows, ain't nobody making no money making records anymore, which is insane. And it seems to be accepted, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be accepted that well, we're just not going to make money making records. I'm not buying that for a minute. Yeah, absolutely, we should make money making records. We should be able to make a living doing our craft, you know. But there's also, you know, but what we do is we go out live and we perform, you know, and people hear us and see us on YouTube or see us on whatever on the interweb, and then they want to come see us play. And that's how it's working, you know, and people come out and I'm lucky to have, you know, hardcore diehard fans who come out and they buy everything I bring and they come out to see us play.
That's pretty cool. So you think there is a way to make a living in it?
I think, you know, as long as you don't make that your priority, that's not your aim, then you're going to make a living, you're going to survive. You know, if your aim is to make the absolute best music that's going to move people and shake the foundations that they stand on, then you're going to be just fine. You'll survive.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
So who are one or two of your favorite Americana artists of all time?
Oh, let's see. I would say two of my favorites that come to mind would be the Hooters. It would be Pop Staples and Louis Armstrong would probably be my two favorite Americana artists. That's pretty broad stroke.
Is there anyone up and coming that you really like?
You know, man, I was in Boston last night, or not before, and the girl in there was wearing a Lake Street Drive shirt, and man, that girl is a singing fool. And so I really, really dig those guys. Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome job.
Hi, I'm Jesse Scott, and I've just had an amazing ride through the years. But back in 1975, I was on the radio in New York City at WHN, the country radio station, and my boss came over to my house and he pulled out the albums, the Graham Parsons and the Flying Burrito Brothers and the Goose, the Ice, and the Goose Creek, no ice, the Goose Creek Symphony, and there was, I'm playing Glenn Campbell and Tanya Tucker records, but I started playing Americana, which wasn't even called that back in those days, on the radio in 1976 in New York. And at the time, I knew that it was a format unto itself. It took me 25 years to make that a reality when XM called me and asked me to put a channel on the air for them. But along the way, I've gotten to program amazing radio stations, book amazing artists. I started a video blog, which just hit 29 million views of our 1,000 videos. It's called Music Fog. You should check that out, too.
I also want to thank you for playing the record with my old band, Betty Dillon.
Ah!
I really appreciate it. You have an impeccable taste.
Thank you. It's been a total labor of love.
These are good. Well, Midtown Live.
Oh, yeah. Come see us at Midtown Live. It's a brand new club that we just opened up with a roots rock and roll agenda. Mike Ferris is here tonight.
I didn't even know about this place. This is the first time I've been here.
We just started booking shows here.
Wow, it's really cool.
It's way cool.
Yeah. Why is Americana music located in Nashville and Austin if there's social media and all this digital stuff?
Well, I don't know that I totally think that it's just in Nashville and Austin, although those are great population areas for musicians to live, and that kind of got grandfathered in before really the Americana movement took hold, which arguably is about 20 years. But there are lots of other pockets in the country, like Chicago, for instance, has an amazing Americana scene. So does the Rocky Mountain area. There are a lot of bands that live there that are making Americana music. Obviously, California has had, LA included, a great Americana scene for decades, and the Appalachian Mountains, too. So, I think that when you talk about business, you're looking at the music business centers, what's left of them. They used to be New York, LA, Nashville, and Austin. Less Austin really ever in terms of infrastructure of the business world, but the reality is that people congregate around those towns for different reasons, and what there is left of it in terms of music business, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit, has drawn certain artists there. So.
But does anybody move to Chicago or Los Angeles or the Appalachian Mountains?
Yeah, the Appalachians for sure.
They moved there
hell yeah.
To be in the Americana scene?
Yeah, I would say that Asheville, a lot of people are moving there, and there's a lot of music that comes out of there. I don't know that any Rust Belt city these days is bringing that many people in, so I think, people are abandoning towns like New York and Chicago. It's cold, it's,
Well, New York's a cycle because they're banning New York. Coming to Brooklyn.
Right.
And now
well, Brooklyn is totally happening.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. There's a lot of artists in Brooklyn. Lone Bellow lives in Brooklyn. I mean, there's countless mando players and banjo players in Brooklyn. I like to say a tree goes in Brooklyn. I mean, it's, there's a great root scene there. Yeah. Seriously. So, it's interesting.
With all these talented people and these great artists, does anybody make money in Americana?
I do think that if you looked at the charts, I'm not talking about the Americana chart because that's radio airplay, but if you look at the top 40 Billboard weekly chart, that you will see, depending on the week, 10 to 20% of those titles are Americana. So the answer is yes. Certainly people like Emmylou Harris, Lyle Lovett, John Prine have been around a long time. They make money every time they put an album out. And you have people like Jason Isbell, who's kicking ass. He's doing great. And, Justin Townes Earl. Yeah, exactly. There's a new wave I find it really sort of interesting because for me, a lot of those seeds got planted maybe 12 years ago when Oh Brother, Where Art Thou came out. And there were kids that were 10, 12 years old listening to this music, and they liked it. And they came back 10 years later upon being in their 20s and started making Americana music. And that's this whole new wave that we have now. It's awesome.
So what do you think is the future of Americana, and how does this music fit into?
Let's talk about how difficult it is to have any intellectual property now in the present climate. I like to say we're dancing on the dying embers of mass communication. So every area, whether it's magazines, whether it's, whether it's movies, whether it's music, we have kind of taken the supply chain and blown it up. And that isn't to say that's necessarily a bad thing, because it's democratized the process. You've got tons of people making music, but it makes it harder to get traction. That isn't to say that, we don't, some of us love the niche and can make a living from the fact that 60,000 people buy a Sturgill Simpson record, for instance. He can tour behind that. He can keep growing his audience. He just signed it with Atlantic Records. So, there's a future for the authentic, I think. And there's a future, too, for the experience, where you're going out and you're seeing music and you're sharing it with people, whether that's at Bonnaroo, whether that's going to a show. That's really where the juice is, much more so than what radio delivers or what, any of these other mass mediums do, because they're breaking down. There's no monolithic delivery system anymore of the music. So it makes it really hard to go city to city. Back in the old days, like when I was first starting on the radio, we played the Moody Blues album. The Moody Blues became a huge band. They were a band already in the 60s, but in the 70s when we started playing them, every city had a radio station that was playing this music, and people were listening. We've lost that in the process just because radio is, not taking chances, not playing new music. So it's really hard to break an artist that way. But there's other ways to break now, which is the internet. And again, doing a great show and having people talk about it. And the next time the show's bigger, and the next time you're playing Bonnaroo. So all that stuff is very green, it's very verdant, and that's where you got to go.
So who are your two favorite Americana artists of all time?
That's so hard, but I'm going to just go down the road back, because Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan kind of really set the stage for me. Yeah, Hank too, totally. I mean, it's like, you could say Graham Parsons. There's so many people you could say, but I think that Woody really embodied this great questioning authority spirit and wrote the music of his heart, whether it was sweet, whether it was funny, whether it was political, and Dylan also really, through his unbelievable career, has had eras of his life where he's explored different things, and I think that's also very much a spirit of Americana that is, if you look at Steve Earle, the new album's a blues record. He did a Townes Van Zandt cover album.
Steve has said to Fred, don't call him Americana artist, I'm a folk artist.
And he is able to explore whatever music he chooses at that moment in his life. And I think that's really what Americana is about, too.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Y'all know I'm from Tennessee, y'all know that. And I've been telling a story lately about, y'all come on in. You're right on time. You ain't missed that yet. Close the door. Where you ready, Lamar, girl? Now sit your ass down. But I'm telling a story lately about being raised in the South and how we came up, when we got signed to Atlantic Records years ago, they looked at us, and kind of like treat us, pretty condescending, like a bunch of hillbillies, which we were, But I didn't take too kindly about somebody pointing that shit out. And so here we were, these little country boys, coming up from Tennessee, and And it really gave me, for a long time, a complex about being from the South.